Welcome to the first of what we expect to be many rundowns of what's on your ballot uh, by the District 2 Democratic Club. So let's get into it. What's on your ballot in November of 2020? First things first, who is the District 2 Democratic Club? Well, we are residents of District 2 seeking to give our neighbors an effective voice in government through an active participation in the electoral process. We want to energize, mobilize, and engage the community through political activities, including community forums, events, and endorsements. You can see our board of directors here. I'm Eric Kingsbury. I'm the president. We have Diane Lee, our VP of membership and publicity. We have Suki Kott, our VP of political action and issues, Jason Pellegrini, our treasurer, and Gina Simi. If you want to find out more about us, you can learn about us on the District 2 Democratic Club website, d2dems.com. You can email us at d2dems@gmail.com. You can visit us on Twitter at d2dems or Facebook. That's facebook.com/d2dems. So let's run down once on the San Francisco ballot. I'm only going to be going through elected offices in this segment, and these will only be elected offices that will be appearing here in District 2. So if you happen to be watching this and you live in a different district in the city, note you might have a district supervisor race that will appear on there. You may also have a BART race or a different state assembly race. So just keep that in mind. I'm going to be running down President, House of Representatives, State Senate, State Assembly, San Francisco Board of Education, and City College of San Francisco Board of Trustees. There will be a separate video for local ballot initiatives, regional ballot initiatives, and a brief section about state ballot props. So I think we all know this race, Joe Biden versus Donald Trump. It is definitely the big ticket item. In District 2, we're expecting about an 80% turnout, if not higher. And that happens every presidential year here in this district. I think everyone that's watching this has certainly made up their minds. It's hard to imagine there's many undecided voters here in San Francisco. Obviously, the District 2 Democratic Club will be backing Joe Biden, and we are officially backing Joe Biden, the Democratic nominee for president of the United States here in 2020. House of Representatives, we see Nancy Pelosi facing off against Shahid Buttar. Buttar is a lefty. He's a bit of a gadfly. This is his second time running. Nancy Pelosi, obviously the Speaker of the House, has earned our support, and I am certain in November will earn the support of the vast majority of San Franciscans. She's well on her way to re-election, and we are excited to have her continue to represent us and continue to be the Speaker of a Democratic majority. State Senate District 11. Now, this is going to be one of the more interesting ones. This is Scott Wiener. He is the incumbent, elected in 2016 against Jackie Fielder. She is another young upstart and socialist. She has made the main issue of this election the support of Scott by the realtors. Scott Wiener has done a lot of work introducing pro-housing legislation in the California State Assembly. Quite a bit of it has been a bit controversial. Some of it has not passed, but he has done a lot of work around the issue of housing and transportation here in the state of California, as well as environmental issues. He is almost certainly one of the most progressive legislators in the entire country, which is why I think for some people it's hard to imagine that someone is running to his left. But this is the city of San Francisco, after all. So Scott does have a strong shot at re-election, but Jackie has been an upstart. The District 2 Democratic Club is backing Scott in this race, and we encourage all of you to do the same. Just for reference, in State Senator Wiener's race against Jane Kim in 2016, it was the margin in District 2 that made the difference in that race. He would not have been able to have beaten Jane Kim in that race if it had not been for the voters in District 2. And we're hoping that all of our friends here in D2 will be voting for him again. Just a couple of quick facts about the California State Senate. There are 40 members. Each of them have 4-year terms. There is a 12-year term limit, and each state senator represents a population roughly equivalent to Joe Biden's home state of Delaware. Yes, we have very large state Senate districts. They are actually larger than House of Representative districts in the United States House of Representatives. Then we have California State Assembly. Both candidates, or both incumbents, in Assembly District 17 and Assembly District 19, that's David Chiu and Phil Ting respectively, are running against somewhat minor candidates. David Chiu is running against someone by the name of Star Child. He's a libertarian. Phil Ting is actually running against a Republican. Both of them are expected to cruise to re-election here in San Francisco. We have endorsed both of them as they are the official Democratic candidates for those races. Just a few things about California State Assembly. There are 80 members. Each of them serve 2-year terms. There's a 12-year term limit, and each district is about 465,000 people. Now let's talk about the Board of Education. This is actually something that we get a lot of questions about, and I think it's something that tends to be a little bit lower profile, but does typically act as a springboard for people that eventually go on to serve in higher office in San Francisco city government, particularly the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. Since district elections were created, we've had just under half of the people who have gone on to serve as district supervisors actually coming from the San Francisco Board of Education. So that is to say that it is known as quite the springboard. Now let's talk about the makeup and responsibilities. It is a 7-member board, and it is elected at large in the city. Much like the Board of Supervisors before the year 2000, you are competing for the entire city, which is to say it is very expensive, and it is difficult because it is a lower profile race than something like supervisor, mayor, state senate, or state assembly. They each serve 4-year terms. There are 4 seats up in 2020, which is to say that 2020 is the year when the majority of the seats are up, and it determines the policy for all the public schools in San Francisco Unified School District. The candidates that are running this year are Alita Fisher, Paul Congas, Jenny Lamb, Matt Alexander, Michelle Parker, Kevin Bogus, Mark Sanchez, Andrew Douglas Alston, Genevieve Lawrence, and Nick Rothman. Jenny Lamb is the incumbent. She was elected just last year after being appointed in 2018. And Mark Sanchez is actually running, he is an incumbent as well. He is running for his 4th term. He served 2 terms from 2000 to 2008, and then was reelected in 2016 and is running again in 2020. A couple of hot topics for the SF Board of Education. School reopenings is the big one. As any parent knows, San Francisco public schools are still closed. Children are not able to attend those public schools. There are some tentative reopening plans. We do not have a definitive date for most schools to reopen. That has caused a lot of tension with parents, and that is something that will be discussed on the campaign trail. I'm sure each candidate has sections about it on their website. The budget deficit, which is quite yawning at this point. There is, in the 2020-2021 fiscal year, they are expecting up to $150 million budget deficit. That is for a district budget that is $1.15 billion. So we're looking at almost a 10% gap. There are going to be serious cuts that are going to need to be made, and we do not necessarily know where those cuts will be coming from. There have been some suggestions. The board has met, the board has looked at proposed budgets, but until the coronavirus crisis has passed, we do not know exactly what the financial situation will look like, and it will not be finalized. Something that's been a very hot topic that has come up somewhat recently and is definitely on the back burner now are those Washington High murals. That is the murals of George Washington that were painted by a communist muralist that caused a lot of controversy in this past year in particular. There was a big back and forth about it in the New York Times as well, whether those murals should be taken down or should not. The board voted unanimously to take them down. It does have a prohibitively high cost, which has led to there being further conversation about what to do with the murals and if there is a way to preserve them or whether they should be preserved and whether they are too offensive to save. And one other thing that has come up very recently in an education hot topic, and actually came up after we put this presentation together, is that Lowell High, the elite high school in the city of San Francisco that has long been a school that is not actually part of the school lottery itself. It allows, it has an admissions process, is actually going to be added to the school lottery system this next year. That means that there will be the ability for parents to request to have their children attend Lowell High School, and it will not be covered by the current admissions process. Now, that's going to be a big issue, especially for parents with high achieving children in places like District 2, but throughout the city. Lowell has a reputation as one of the best high schools in the country, so this is certainly going to set off some controversy. And of course, anything about the school lottery always sets off controversy. That is another issue that goes unmentioned here, but there is a reconsideration of how the school lottery system will work. There are actually 3 different proposals that have been considered, and we will see what the next school board comes down with. But if you are concerned about school reopenings, if you are concerned about the budget deficit, the Washington High murals, Lowell High School, or about the lottery system itself, I highly encourage you to take a look at the websites of each of the different candidates before you mark your ballots. And then let's talk about the City College Board of Trustees. The makeup and responsibilities, it's a 7-member board that's elected at large, just like the school board. They are 4-year terms. There are 4 seats up in 2020, and it determines the policy for the San Francisco Community College District. We currently have quite a few candidates. We have Alan Wong, Anita Martinez, Aliya Chisti, Han Ju, Tom Temprano, Marie Harabiel, Jeremy Teeter, Victor Oliveri, Jeanette Quick, and Dominic Ash. Shanell and Tom are the incumbents at this moment who are running. Now, something to keep in mind is that just like the school board, the CCSF Board of Trustees is facing a significant budget deficit. It looks as though it is the biggest budget crisis that they have faced since the accreditation crisis that I'm sure quite a few people remember from a handful of years ago. We also need to replace the chancellor due to the need for budget cuts and an attempt to raise the salaries of executives at the CCSF. The chancellor was pressured to resign and did actually resign. So right now there is an interim chancellor serving. And then, of course, something that's very D2 specific that we think is a hot topic is the closing of the Fort Mason campus. The City College actually had a Fort Mason campus up and running for 40 years and just recently shut it down as part of closing that budget deficit. It was mostly an arts campus, did serve the community very well. It will be a big loss for our community and for many of the neighborhoods on the north side. But the City College will still be serving the arts community as best that they possibly can. Obviously, it's just a disappointment for us, but a totally understandable one. And in case you're curious, the candidates that we are endorsing as the District 2 Democratic Club are Aliya Chisti, Shanell Williams, Tom Temprano, and Alan Wong. All right, and that is it for candidates. The next installment, you will be learning about San Francisco's ballot measures. So thank you very much.